All right, Dodger fans, there it is again. Another series win. I believe I'm going to have to check my book, but I believe that's 5 out of the last series we've won, and the other one we tied. We haven't lost a series in the 6 series. So, Dodgers are playing well. You know what the line is. You guys know how this works. I got Ron Cervenka on the show today. He's going to be the guest host. Why don't you join us for a conversation? There's the number right there. My name is Tom Wilson. This is Talkin Blue Live. Hey, Ron, how are you, buddy?
Doing good, brother.
Yeah.
That was a rather interesting ball game we just listened to and watched. But what a great road trip! 506, a sweep and a series win. I don't know what your score is now, but it's got to be good. Got to be getting better at least.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean you don't know what the score is? What are you talking about?
Your series.
Oh yeah, it's
score.
7. It's 7, 7, and 6. So what that means is, and what Ron's referring to is, we do this show. Real quick introduction again. At the end of each series, we do the show because we feel like, what's really important is how a series goes. Winning streaks are one thing, losing streaks are another. But if you're winning series, that's kind of the preparation you need when you get to the playoffs and the World Series. So that's kind of how we're approaching this series. We do 51. We do 51 shows this year. We just kind of take a look at this here. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, we're 7, 7, and 6. So how do you feel about that?
It's still 500 ball. That's kind of a concern, but the division is letting the Dodgers in.
Yeah. I thought this. I know Pittsburgh. I kind of have a realist attitude about baseball. I get excited when we win, of course, but Pittsburgh was a reeling team when we went in there, Ron. So I kind of expected that we would go ahead and win this series. But here, let's let the Dodger fans talk. Talkin Blue Live.
Hey, Tom. Frank Martinez. How you doing?
Frank Martinez. Frank Talk L.A.
That's me.
Hey, buddy. How are you? So
we
got Ron Cervenka as our guest host today. So.
Oh,
how you doing,
Ron? Nice to talk to you.
Yeah. So go ahead, Frank. You're the Dodger fan who calls in a lot, and I really appreciate it. And tell me what you got. What's on your mind?
Well, I mean, beside all the obvious things, great road trip, 5-1 is nothing to scoff at. And it's real unorthodox, though. You think a team goes 5-1 on a road trip, you'd probably pencil down a few dominant starts by your starters and maybe a little bit of work by your bullpen in there, but this was almost inverted, obviously, and the bullpen having to throw a ton of innings is something, to appreciate, but obviously just kind of long-term view for the rest of the season, we got to do something. I mean, I know...
Well, this goes right along with what I always say, which is pitching doesn't matter. What's pitching? I mean, you're right. This is what an anomaly to have a series, to have as far as wins and losses go. They always say you have the new status, the new stat guys say wins and losses for a pitcher don't matter. Well, I'm beginning to wonder if wins and losses for teams matters.
Well, yeah, there is a pretty big debate, and I mean, I think the consensus at this point is a lot of people are on that side of things and say the win is a terrible stat and take it away. And but what about in a game like today? I saw somebody ask on Twitter, and they said, "Hey, if the game were to end 1-0, after Jock leading off that, if the game were to end 1-0, who would have gotten the win?" I have no clue.
Well, Ron, isn't that assigned by the official scorekeeper when it doesn't go like an official guy doesn't go, the starter doesn't go an official amount of time?
No, it's my understanding that unless you go 5 to start, you cannot get the win.
Right.
as a starting pitcher.
And as a result of that, Alexander gets the win today, I believe. I believe that's the case. I'll have to look it up here in a minute.
But then it boils down to just when you take the lead and keep the lead. Whoever the pitcher of record was at that time. I think that officially I think there's a subjective decision to be made by someone there. I don't think it's in the rule book that says, oh, this is going to be the winner because
I don't believe it's black and white either.
Yeah.
As far as I've heard it explained in the past.
Right. I'll have to look into that. I'm kind of a stickler for the rule book and stuff, but I just wanted to kind of I think you both have been aware of what I let me just kind of get this squared away here. I have to make an announcement.
Oh.
Yeah, if you can see your screen here in a minute, you'll see that I'm the baseball dunce. I'm basically
You are the dunce.
I am the dunce. And you know why I'm a dunce? Because last show I was lobbying to send Bell.
I called you. I remember.
Well, there you go. And that's why I'm doing it with you on the line, I think. I went ahead and said, and actually you resisted it. And I thought, what an idiot. Frank is such an idiot. And,
yeah, I could see those thoughts swirling in your head as I was watching.
Yep. So I got to say, this is one of the things I love about baseball is I do look at it as like a kind of like a life's experience, kind of a world where you can kind of experience life things, but they're not at the end of the day, they're not all that important. But it isn't. I do appreciate those times when I get to say I was wrong. I think I panicked. I do what I hate other Dodger fans doing. As soon as a player starts playing poorly, I want to pull him or get rid of him. And I was so frustrated with Bellinger, I said to pull him. Frank, who's on the phone here, who kind of was trying to talk me down last week and say, no, maybe just move him down the lineup, or let him work it out here. And I was like, no, don't let him work it out here. Make him move it down. And Frank was like, no, I think it's best if you just kind of leave him on the team and don't mess with this too much. And I went, no, I think we should move him down. Thus, I'm wearing the dunce cap right now.
Right. And I mean, just it kind of joking aside, I think obviously the approach of Bellinger. This is I think you can read into this a little bit more than just a guy running into a few hits in a game. You know what I mean? Just his approach, the opposite field home run.
Yeah.
Yesterday was to straightaway center.
Yep.
Those kind of signs point to, I think, an overall adjustment having been made. And then with that, the confidence obviously skyrockets, and that makes for really a completely different hitter up there than from, let's say, 2 weeks ago.
And truth be told, he was working on something. I mean, it's not like he just I was right the whole time. And he is kind of bending his back a little bit on those outside pitches and trying to put the barrel on the ball and make him go the other way. And and looking. But also, I got to say though, in my own defense, that he is getting a lot of cookies, man. I don't know if these guys are getting scouting reports, but they're throwing the ball below his belt. And it's like, if I was a scout, I'd say, don't you ever throw that ball below his belt. And he's seeing a lot of balls below his belt. We'll see if the league gets back to kind of testing him and going, no, you see if you can hit this one that's around your rib cage.
The double he hit today off the wall was letter high, just about. And I think that's something he has not shown the ability to catch up to during his cold spell. But I'm also equally impressed. He was going for the triple. He was going for that triple for the cycle in that last at-bat in the top of the ninth. And I'm really impressed in the fact that he worked the walk after an 0-2 count, which he seemed to have been inheriting over the last 2 months. And he worked the walk. He fouled out, worked it full, fouled a couple of pitches off, and laid off a pitch that we've seen him swing through very often. So, all these things are pointing to, I think, what he's been working on. And you see him also with Turner Ward in the dugout throughout the game. It seems to be clicking.
You do see.
Not to say we're getting, a 39, 40 home run bat back in the lineup. I don't know that, but I do see a much more confident and an overall better hitter.
Yeah, I see, and you can see someone working on it too. When you see someone get that frustrated and that, he was hanging his head and his shoulders were drooping, and he was working on it. And we'll see. It's always fun to watch young players mature. I just love it. And I think with the right adults and coaching around them, Jock and Bellinger, hopefully will be great Dodgers for a long time. So what else?
Right on. Aside from that, on the hit, and I wanted to pick your brain a little bit with the bullpen. At some point, something's going to have to be done with the bullpen with respect to the players that are coming out of the bullpen. But I think just overall, the overall managing of the bullpen game to game. I think it was Paredes today came in and he got that one batter on 7 pitches or whatever it was with a absolutely gassed bullpen, and Doc comes out and removes him. I don't get that.
Let me just say along those lines. I thought it's funny. If you were to watch a game on just watching Twitter, you would have no idea how players are really doing based on how fans react, because most fans are not. They kind of watch the game and they're they just don't watch baseball as much as some people do. And Baez in that first inning, a seeing eye ground ball got through. Next guy sacrifice bunts. Next guy bunts. Fly ball to center. Run scores. Lazy, line out to the shortstop, and no one hit the ball hard off of him. They scored a run, and you would think, based on what was going on social media on various locations, that he just had a horrible outing, and then he comes out and gets the next 3 guys out. And I agree with you. I think he had more. They should have rode him a little bit more there because he was on a roll. He was throwing the ball. He gave up a run. Whoop-de-doo. Baez had a great game today. And
by the way, I think he was given the win officially.
Oh well, he should have. He should have been given the win.
Right.
For sure.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how this holds up. Hopefully some of the guns are coming back. I heard Joe Davis make mention about Kershaw perhaps being about a week and a half to 2 weeks. We'll see what that means, once he's on the mound again. And
right.
Obviously Rich Hill seems to be right around the corner.
Maeda's coming back, I heard, before too long, and we'll see. We'll see. I don't see. The problem is with some of these injuries, I don't, like Kershaw's back. I'm like, well, okay, he had a bad back, he pitched, it got hurt again. Now he rests.
Yeah, but right. Of course, that's that side of the coin. But on the opposite side, same thing happened the last 2 seasons, and he's returned and been able to pitch well again.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of a flip of the coin at this
Well, that's true, but when the coin just keeps, when the coin gets old, and the thing is, I agree with you. I think he's going to be fine for a while. But if his back keeps going out, it's not a good thing, right?
Sure. No, it's not something you celebrate, that's for sure.
No.
I wanted to ask Ron something. He's on the line here. Ron, what, aside from the update from Dave Roberts about Urias, is he throwing at this point off a mound yet, or where's he at in his?
I'm sorry, you talking about Maeda?
No.
I'm talking about Urias.
Urias.
Oh, Urias. No. The last I heard, and it's probably been a week, is that he was long tossing, but he's still not on a mound.
Okay.
Long tossing out to like 60 feet 6 inches. He's throwing the distance, and then I believe he's probably even going longer than that now. But he has yet to actually stand on a mound and start having bullpens and things like that. That was my understanding. Like I said, about 4 or 5 days ago.
Okay. Yeah, Robert's saying that we could potentially see him towards the end of July seemed to, a little surprising. But, if that's, I don't know if that's, rushing him back, or I really don't know with his specific injury and, in his specific rehab.
And it's going to take time when he gets back. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. We've talked about it in our podcast a lot, where even if he does return this season, we wouldn't expect a whole lot from him. And then even going into next season, we'd see what happens.
And I don't think anybody's. Go ahead, Ron.
I wouldn't be surprised that. I don't. My gut says not before the All-Star break, but I would not be surprised to see him come into that bullpen, and that's a logical assumption, and start building up innings that way, as opposed to rehab starts and things like that. So, I still believe he'll do rehabs, initially, but I think he's probably going to, when he gets to the big club, it'll be in the bullpen.
All right. Well, listen, I want to clear up the line, Frank, unless you got something else you want to add.
No, just wanted to touch base and celebrate the excellent road trip, and let's hope for more of the same in the next homestand.
And fans, seriously, go if you're a Dodger fan and you just listen, you want to listen to some chatter and some intelligent chatter about the Dodgers. Let's Be Frank Pod. Is there a podcast? It's is that right? Am I right? Let's Be Frank.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's on SoundCloud. Let's Be Frank Pod on iTunes, Apple Podcast.
Yeah. Everywhere.
You can get us there and on Twitter, as you have on the screen there.
Yep, and it's a lot of fun. So I totally encourage you Dodger fans to check it out if you want to kind of hear what the Dodgers.
Hey, I'm at work here and I haven't had lunch, so in your honor, Ron, I'll go have some In-N-Out.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I know you're on a rush. I never ever want to keep a guy from a double, but as soon as we get off the air here, I'm bolting out to Lancaster to catch the Jethawks, and the Quakes are wrapping up their series there. And as soon as you get off the 14 there, instead of turning left to go to the ballpark, you turn right. Right on the corner there is an In-N-Out. That's my first stop.
Oh my God! All right, Frankie. Thanks, bud.
All right, Tom.
Frank Martinez. Be good. Talk soon.
All righty.
And
Talk to you later, Frank. Thanks.
Speaking of that, In-N-Out Burger Foundation, we support them here. They do a lot of good work for kids. And Lindsay Snyder, if you're there, call us. We want to talk to you. Anyway, that aside, that was such a segue. I couldn't ignore it. Listen,
I get it. I get that. That was a perfect segue.
Listen, Ron. The bottom line is we're gonna have to. I don't want to get into the weeds too much here, but we're going to have to go outside of the organization, and we're going to have to get a trade to get some relief pitching. If we're going to be a pennant, contending team, would you agree with that?
I don't know. I think I'm not throwing the towel in on Ferguson. I'm not going to. I'm a little I was disappointed. I'm a little concerned about Dennis Santana, but I don't want to run out and grab somebody yet. But
not yet. Not yet. But it's coming.
We with Buehler up and with Santana up and with Fergie up, we're kind of running out of guys in the high minors that could come in and help. That being said, and it's ridiculous to even go here, but at High A, at Rancho, the Dodgers have Krimmer. They've got Sabor. They've got Sabor's in Double A, but they've got a couple of really good. They got Dustin May. These are really, really young kids, and my heart says, well, the situation might call to move them up. That's what my heart says. Realistically, they are too young, but there's help on the way, but it's not immediate help. So that being said, and going along with what you just said, I think that something might have to happen here at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to have to be. I mean, even if we have some young guys that are good and ready to come up, the bottom line is, if Cingrani, if some of our guys who are tooled and ready for the playoffs are not able to come through, we're going to have to go outside. But anyway, that said, I just wanted to kind of go to another point. This fella is going to be coming on. Jeff Snyder? He's a Dodger fan out of Utah.
I know him from this show, and I also know him from Twitter.
Yeah, well, we're going to connect with Jeff Snyder. In fact, Jeff, whenever you're ready, you can just call in if you're listening. And I was going to call him because I'm going to start this thing where I'm calling. I think where I'm going to call some Dodger fans too. But I found out
I did check. And Frank was right. Baez was credited with the W. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. So I still, I mean, I'm one of those crazy fans, and I know, Ron, me and you part ways a little bit here, but I still believe Baez is going to be. He's still somewhat young. I think he's got super stuff. I think he's been dealing with some just the stuff he's dealt with makes people, if it doesn't kill you, makes it stronger, sort of thing. If he can overcome, the stuff he's dealt with in his career, I do think, he's going to be a special player. But hold on a minute. Talkin Blue Live. Go, Dodger fans.
Hey, Tom, it's Jeff.
Jeff Snyder. All right, Dodger fans.
Okay?
Yeah, you're good. I can hear you. You're going to be on a little bit of a delay. If you're watching, turn your volume down. You're going to be on a little bit of a delay. So, Anyway, Jeff, Jeff is a Dodger fan that I've seen online in various places, and I just admire, where he's coming from as far as being a fan goes. I don't always agree with anybody, but then I am the one who.
I just want to know why you have to point out every time that you don't always agree with me, Tom.
Well, I say that about everybody, Jeff, because I want them to know that when that I'm not just being disagreeable. That's just how I am. Actually, maybe
disagreeable.
Actually, oh man, that's so true. Anyway, I called Jeff up because I had this idea. I said, "Listen, Jeff, first of all, I'm going to start calling fans, and I want him to be one of them." So he said, "That's cool. I can call him when we get lined up to talk." But I had this idea about a baseball team. There's so much love for the home run and the power. And I just wondered, could you put together a winning baseball team with guys who weren't home run hitters? I mean, could a World Series championship team ever be a team without a bunch of home run hitters? And I thought, well, let's go to the extreme. If it was stacked with really good non-power hitters, what would it look like? And I thought, well, I don't really know how to go out and assess that, but I do know who might. And Jeff Snyder's name came up. So I said, Jeff, can you think a little bit about a non-power team so I can at least kind of wrap my mind around it a little bit? And he said, yeah, I'll put some thought into it. And did you have a chance to do that, Jeff?
Yeah.
You did?
And, it's kind of interesting because the last couple of years, even non-power hitters are hitting 10 or 15 homers,
Right.
It's not like the 85 Cardinals who just did it based on speed and getting on base and didn't have any power at all and ended up, going all the way.
Right.
Because even the first guy that comes to mind is Jose Altuve, and then you look and he hits homers now. He's 3'7" and weighs 36 pounds, and he hits home runs.
Yeah. How many did he hit? How many did he hit last year, roughly? Do you have any idea?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was
20 something.
I think it was in the 20s even.
Yeah. Right.
But but Altuve is the guy who comes to mind because even though he hit a lot of homers last year, for him, he's not a power guy. But he plays good defense. He hits the ball. He gets on base. He runs the bases well. That's the kind of guy you'd be looking for. Another guy that comes to mind automatically is Andrelton Simmons.
Right. The Angels shortstop.
He's hit really well this year. Hasn't hit for a ton of power, but he's hit better than he ever has in his career before. And obviously his defense is off the charts. And so, I mean, up the middle defense is super important. Base running is important if you don't have the power. And obviously getting on base. A guy like D. Gordon, now that he's a center fielder, he fits in right there with that. Obviously I think he's leading the majors in steals, or at least the American League in steals this year. He's played really good defense in center field, even though he's never been a center fielder before. He's a guy to think of, a guy like, then we've covered second, short, and center, so the other one's catcher. Yadier Molina is not really a power hitter. He has hit some homers in his career.
Posey, maybe?
Buster Posey is almost turning into like that Joe Mauer
right.
hitter. Now, not a ton of power. I think he has like 3 or 4 homers this year, but he's still hitting well, and he's got good numbers, and obviously manages the pitching staff well, is good defensively. So, if you start up the middle with Posey, Altuve, Simmons, and Gordon up the middle, then that's where it gets tricky. After that is the corners, because that's more your.
How about Jose Martinez of the Cardinals? You think I don't think he's got a lot of power.
I think he hit one today, a homer today. But yeah, he's one that it might just be that we haven't seen his power yet. I think hitter waiting to break out more than some of these other guys.
Right.
But when you're looking at the corner spots, the corner infield and the corner outfield, you're going to be hard pressed. You've got Corey Dickerson, who the Dodgers played against today. He hasn't hit a ton of homers this year, but he's hit well. But again, he's hit homers in the past. I think he's just a power hitter who isn't currently hitting for power. You could get tricky in right field with a guy like Whit Merrifield, who's a second baseman, but he's played some outfield. So, I'll give him right field eligibility on this team.
That's the Royals. That's a Royals outfielder, Merrifield.
Royals second baseman, yeah, but we could stick him in right field. I like him because my mom was a Merrifield, so with first Merrifield in baseball, and I'm a Merrifield. My grandparents were Merrifield, so he's one of my favorites just because of that, and so it helps that he's also a good baseball player.
Right. Well, also, how about Rosario from the Twins? I believe he's an outfielder, right? He's a
Yeah, and he's another guy who I think just isn't currently hitting for power, but I think the power's there.
Yeah. I guess when I asked you to do this, I probably should have said, you know what, go back. I think your instinct was to go back throughout history and look at what would be the all-time non-power lineup, because I get the reason I'm bringing it up, and let's have this conversation real quick, is do you think a team without there's an old coach in hockey, the Kings' old coach, and he used to say, you know what, no one has to be great if we're all good. And I always believed that as a team player. And I just wondered, could you have a team, a low-power team, win the World Series?
In this day and age, I don't know if you could. I mean, when I was a kid, and you were in your, never mind, I won't make an old joke.
No, that's all right. I can handle it.
I mentioned the mid-'80s, early to mid-'80s Cardinals, and when you've got guys like Willie McGee and Vince Coleman stealing 1,000 bases, even Tommy Herr, I remember he was the trivia question answer. I think it was 1985 that he drove in 100 runs with only, I think, 8 home runs or something.
Right.
And that's because he had guys in front of him getting on base and getting themselves in the scoring position with their legs. And so, I mean, I think if you could find those kind of players, you could do it again. I just don't know that those kind of players exist anymore. I don't.
You know what, Tom? Jeffrey's an interesting point here. Let's go look at the 1963 Dodgers World Series championship team. I go there because I was there. Okay, I got to witness it.
And you're bringing it back to the Dodgers. I love that.
That did not have much power. They had Frank Howard. They had Tommy Davis. Occasional pop there, but they won that thing with pitching.
Yeah.
If you have great pitching, good, even very good pitching, or better than average pitching, I think you can win a world championship without a lot of pop. And that's the problem we have here right now is the Dodgers don't have that, and they are doing it. They're doing what they're doing right now with pop.
Yeah.
So
this is
I don't know how it's going to end, but that's my take on it.
This is a very un-Dodger, traditionally a very un-Dodger type of team because, like you say, it's always been done with pitching. This team actually reminds me more of the Yankees, like when I was growing up. Lots of power, but pitching definitely questionable. But
Well, that's the Yankees we're seeing right here, right now, too. I mean, they're bopping.
Crazy thing is, though, that even with the lack of pitching, it's kind of the pitching that got them back into it. The bats have started to come alive in the last week or so. But, I mean, the start of this streak, it was the pitching, the starting pitching, and it was kind of like you think you're at a magic act because you're like, wait, how did they just do that? But, they plugged the holes, and the big problem is you can't do that for a whole 2/3 of a season,
right.
Plugging holes and expecting to get an ERA in the ones when you don't even know who your starter's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, and Atlanta's supposedly a good team. They'll be a better test. I thought Pittsburgh was going to be a good test, but then I started looking at how they were playing before the Dodgers came to town, and they've been just buckling. They've been awful. So we caught a scuffling team in this case, which you got to pay attention to when you're trying to figure out how your team's doing.
Yeah, the 63 Dodgers, though, they're kind of a dangerous comparison because, unfortunately, Sandy Koufax isn't walking through that door. Even if Kershaw was healthy, I mean, if Kershaw was totally healthy, he's as close as we're going to get to Koufax. But the 63 Dodgers, they had good pitching overall, but then they had Koufax, who was otherworldly, and then complemented by Don Drysdale, Bob Miller, and those guys. Johnny Padres, that kind of took care of things. And then they also had, even though they weren't power hitters, it goes back to you got to have speed if you're doing that. And they had Maury Wills, and they had Jim Gilliam, and they had, the Davis guys who they could all steal some bases and get on base. And so if you don't have the power, you've got to have speed, and you've got to have the ability to get on base.
Yeah, and that's not the case with this team, for sure.
Yeah, they're not going to steal a lot of bases. They do get on base well, and that's and really, I mean, we've seen the bats break out, and the Dodgers, as far as it goes for this year's team, I think the power is going to be just fine.
Yeah. No. Okay. Well, that's kind of what was floating around in my mind when I asked you that question. Is the Dodgers are not that team, but could a team like that win? Real quick, while I got you.
The best examples are the 63 Dodgers and the 85-ish Cardinals.
And the 59 White Sox, the Go-Go Sox would be another one. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. All those. So, well, I got you both on the line. I've done this before with all the different positions. Ron's played this game with me before, and so my question here is, who has played the most years as the team's primary center fielder? In other words, he was the main center fielder for X number of years. I think Ron helped me out. It was Lopes at second. It was Pee Wee Reese at short. It was Gil Hodges at first. And then third, who was Osei, I think, was the third baseman. So, and then Zach Wheat was the most common left fielder. But who's the primary center fielder in all the years of the Dodgers have played? That's Brooklyn and Los Angeles. Who would that be? Go ahead, take a moment.
Interesting.
I'm going to go with Tommy Davis. As long as we were talking Tommy Davis, I'm going to go with Tommy.
Was Tommy Davis the center fielder, or was Willie Davis the center fielder?
You're thinking Willie, probably.
I'm Willie Davis. Willie Davis. My bad. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
I absolutely went Willie Davis.
I think Willie Davis was going to be my answer too.
All right. Well, let me see. I don't want to show this to you yet because I already know, but. Get all this stuff straight. Get rid of that. So we're saying Willie Davis. He of the fleet foot, probably 1969ish. Okay, I'm having a little technical thing here, but I'll be fine. Tom on set. There it is. Okay. So Willie Davis was I had no idea. Willie Davis was the primary center fielder for the Dodgers 13 times. 13 years you could count on Willie Davis being in center field. And that is the number one guy. Duke Snyder, pretty close. 10. I don't know. Griffin Meyer, Kenny Landreau, Kemp center fielder 5 years. He was up there. Can Jock Peterson climb up this list, or do you think he's pretty much done in center?
Peterson will ever be the Dodgers' main center fielder again.
Yeah, I don't either. He's going to be their left fielder, and he's never going to catch Zach Wheat.
I think the trend now seems it's not one guy. It's not one guy. They're kind of CT3's getting a lot of starts there, and we've even seen Belly in there a few. But the trend is a guy who plays left, center, and right. They bounce them around. The exception would be Puig. I mean, he certainly belongs in right field because of that gun. But I think you're seeing the trend is there's not one guy anymore. Like we're looking at this list here.
Yeah, and by the way, Yasiel Puig I'm loving him. But am I going to be the only one that has a complete fit when we're in a playoff game and he's standing at home watching his ball hit the wall? Does that bother?
It's kind of funny. So my uncle texted me during the game today after that at bat, and he said, "When is Puig going to learn to run instead of watching the ball?" And I told him, it doesn't bother me because I think if you went back and watched every game the last 3 years, you might find a total of 2 times that, like, for example, that one today, that was either a double or a homer off the bat.
Yeah.
No amount of hustle would have turned that into a triple, and no lack of hustle would have turned it into a single. Either
Right.
it's going over the fence or he's standing on second base. And so, you go back to 2013. Remember when the Cardinals got mad at Puig showboating in the playoffs, and he hit that one that he thought was a home run, but he still ended up on third base. He watched it, and he still hustled around and got to third. And so that's another one where it's like, and that was a triple, and it ended up a triple, and so I don't really care if he watches it. And I think with Puig specifically, it's really a case of you take the bad with the good, and if you try to beat out the personality of him from him, you run the risk of beating out some of the baseball playing ability or the enthusiasm or something. And I'll take a double that he watches because he thinks it might be a homer every day, because that means he just hit a double.
I had a harder time. I agree with you 100%, Frank, Jeff. I mean, absolutely, I buy into that because he does make it most of the time. I had a harder time today with Valera taking second base on trying to take second base. That he cost the Dodgers a run by doing that. Flat out cost him a run, in my opinion. It was a base hit, and he tried to stretch it. I'm sure in his mind he's thinking that the throw was coming home, the belly was going to go, and in his mind he's thinking that. But that was a costly play. I have a harder time when with that than I do with Puig showboating his balls, the long balls.
The big difference is that Puig has a history. Valera, this is the first time we've seen him do that.
True.
And you could see, whoever it was out in the outfield, Frazier maybe, whoever it was, bobbled the ball a little bit, and so you could see him. He just thought, oh, maybe I can take second on it. When I heard that he was going, I thought maybe he was just going to try to get himself in a rundown and try to steal a run for, with Bellinger taking home during a rundown. But no, he was just. I think he just thought he could get the second. And but like I said, it comes back to this is the first time we've seen Valera do that. He doesn't have a history of that, and so it in a vacuum, it's more frustrating. But I think people get more frustrated with Puig because we've seen it over and over. But I really do think that Puig's reputation from his first couple of years is kind of dragging him down a little bit, because he hasn't cost the Dodgers very much on the bases at all over the last couple of years. And when you factor in his aggressive base running, he's easily been a net positive on the bases. And so I'm totally fine with watching him showboat a little bit.
I agree. I think he's matured just leaps and bounds over what he was even 2 and 3 years ago. So I think you're absolutely right, Jeff.
Yeah, I agree to a point. You don't want to stifle the passion of a player, but it's a team sport. And when you allow one player to, and it's fine when he's hitting home runs and hitting the ball off the wall, that's all going to be great. But I'm telling you, I promise you, what's going to happen in a team sport like this is when this happens in a clutch game and he's standing there watching the ball, and you're right, usually he can outrun his mistakes, Jeff. But say the center fielder boots it, and today if the center fielder booted it a little bit, it was going to be a double or not, or a home run. But if that center fielder boots that ball a little bit, he could be standing on third. Well, no problem when you're winning. Everything's fine when you're winning. But it doesn't take anything to tell a player, look, run out of the box. And it's not going to, it should not. If that stifles a player like Puig or any major league player, then you got bigger problems than one player. You got a team problem. You need to have a situation where the team knows that the rules are there for everybody. I know that that's not always the case, but running out of the box is so fundamental. And this is just one of those. This is one of those areas where we happen to disagree, Jeff. I would.
The way I see it, it's been a team sport all 5 years of his career, and they've been in the postseason all 5 years, and it hasn't been an issue. And everybody. I mean, he kind of does things in reverse. Most guys, they hit it, and they run hard out of the box. But then once you see, oh, it's going off the wall, okay, I'm going to start cruising about a third of the
So what you're telling me is you don't mind that he stands in the box and watches the ball fly out away from him. That doesn't bother you.
I think it doesn't, and I think it gets exaggerated because the replays, they show him standing there. They don't show that. I mean, I remember a time in the postseason last year. It was in the series with the Cubs, and there was one that Puig hit, and the national TV announcers were all over him for watching it. But if you actually watch the whole play, it was like his first two steps, he watched it, and then he was sprinting. And then you've got, the same, I pointed out on Twitter, it's like Puig hits a double, and they criticize him for, oh, no, it was on a home run. The ball got over the fence, and the announcers were still, he's lucky that got out because he was showboating. And then the next inning, Javi Baez makes a routine tag on a steal of second base, and they're gushing over it. It's like, it's such a narrative thing that.
So let me ask you.
I might be more okay with it just as a backlash to all the people who are against it.
So let me ask you this. Is there any point, say he stood there and watched the ball and it didn't go over the fence and he just kept standing there and watching it to the point where he got thrown out on the base? That wouldn't bother you?
That would absolutely bother me. But like I said, if you look back, that hasn't happened in the last couple of years.
Yet.
I mean, that's the kind of thing. He did make some mistakes on the bases early in his career, but Puig understands the game of baseball. He's got this happy-go-lucky attitude and kind of lulls people into thinking he doesn't have a brain out there, but he knows what's going on. And I mean, I think
I love
everything he does is calculated.
I love Yasiel Puig, and when he first started out, when he didn't show up to his first game on time and he was late, when I got upset. When he wouldn't hit the cutoff man, I got upset. And I'm always gonna get upset if he doesn't run out of the box, and we're just gonna disagree on that.
Yeah, and I'll only get upset if it actually costs the team anything. And I would hope that if he cost the team, got thrown out on the bases, or cost the team a base, I would hope and assume that he would get benched and that he would learn from it.
So you're going to wait until you're willing to wait until something bad happens to try to deal with the problem. You're going to wait
Well, yeah, because it's not a problem unless something bad happens. I think he has learned. I think Puig knows, off the bat, he knew that thing's either a home run or a double, or worst case scenario, a flyout.
Well, clearly he doesn't know if he's standing in the box. If he has to watch and then it hits the fence and then he decides to run, clearly he doesn't know that it's going over. If he knew, he could just stand there forever and just. But he doesn't know, because once he sees it doesn't go, then he has to run. I mean, he does.
I'm saying he knows it's either going to be a home run or off the wall or caught by the outfielder. And any of those three things, it doesn't matter if he watches it for a second. And that's the thing. It's always these long fly balls. And long fly balls really only have three outcomes. They're home runs, or they're doubles, or they're flyouts. And on any of those three outcomes, it doesn't really matter if he watches it for a second.
Well, I just happen to. We don't need to go through this much anymore. I hear you. You're wrong. I'm right. And I'm just kidding. There is no wrong and right in this situation. But in my mind, you do the right thing and you don't wait until something bad happens and to then correct it and do the right thing. He's sitting on the bench tomorrow if I'm the coach. And if he can't handle it,
I think you're just looking for a bigger margin of error than I am.
Okay, but if that stifles a player, then we got a player who just, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. All I know is this: I'm right and you're wrong, Jeff.
Absolutely.
I'm kidding.
I get to be right next time, though.
No, listen. I just appreciate that you're standing up for what you believe in, and that's enough for me. So
yeah, and honestly, my opinion is not that strong. I deep down inside, I wish Puig would run out of the box,
yeah.
but I don't really have a problem with it because it doesn't hurt the team, and I don't think it's really a risk of hurting the team.
Yeah, so. That's fair enough. Well, listen.
Talk about the rule book for the winning pitcher, like you guys talk about it. I know the rules on this one. So
I'll fire away.
Insight on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Today, the
Okay.
If it hadn't at 1-0, then it would have been up to the scorekeeper. And in a game like this, where if it ended 1-0, meaning that all the relievers had pitched equally effectively,
Right.
the win would have gone to Alexander because he was the first one. But in a game like this, where Baez was the pitcher of record when they took the lead for good, and he wasn't the starting pitcher, so it didn't matter how many innings he had pitched. There's almost no wiggle room for the official scorekeeper. The only wiggle room is if Baez had pitched notably ineffectively, I think is the way it's worded, something like that. And there's actually a note in the rule book that says our suggestion for determining this ineffectiveness is less than an inning pitched and more than 2 runs allowed. And so that's not a hard and fast rule, but that's basically
suggested.
So the only way Baez wasn't going to get the win today is if he had given up more than 2 or given up 2 runs in less than an inning pitched.
And at that point, it's at that point that the official scorer can make a decision.
Yeah, but in this case, the official scorer really didn't have any decision to make because Baez pitched well, or at least not actively ineffectively, and he was the pitcher of record when they took the lead for good. So that's
all right.
That's the answer there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I mean,
if you would have told me that on June 7th that Pedro Baez would have more wins than Clayton Kershaw, I would have sold you the farm. I would have given you the farm.
Yeah.
Well, and this goes back to what you guys were talking about. This is why people believe that pitcher wins are unimportant, because they are. A team win is what matters. A game like today is a perfect illustration of, I was hoping that it would end that it would end 4-1 or whatever it was at that point. That basically the Pirates would only score the 1 run, because at that point Baez would have gotten the win despite being the only pitcher to allow a run, and that would have made my pitcher wins don't matter self very happy.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
When mattered back when starting pitchers pitched most of the innings and had a little more impact on the game. But,
right. It did matter. It used to matter a lot. When you say they don't matter, I would only agree with you to the extent that it's nowadays with the way the game's played, they do matter a lot. I would suggest, if you don't think they ever mattered in the history of baseball, that you just go back and look at the win-loss records of pitchers who pitched 8-9 innings. Fergie Jenkins won 20 games in a row won 20 games for 6 years in a row. Bob Gibson won 20 games. I mean, good pitchers had more wins. Bad pitchers didn't have many wins. I mean, it just was a matter of fact. So.
Yeah, but then you had a guy like Bert Blyleven who played for awful offensive teams, and so his win-loss record wasn't very good, even though he was a pitcher, and it almost cost him the Hall of Fame.
And with any stat, there are anomalies, and that would be Bert Blyleven in this case. So, you're right.
And that's the thing. Wins, back when they were the only tool available, they were a reasonable barometer for how good a pitcher was. But these days, there are so many stats that tell you more accurately how good a pitcher is.
Right. And that's an interesting point.
How good a pitcher is. That's a team stat now.
There's always stats that will tell you more accurately. There's you could just keep going into the weeds with stats and you will get more accurate information. Unfortunately, most fans are not sabermetrics people. They find ways to enjoy the game as best they can. And a lot of times, which is why Joe Davis still uses batting average when he talks about, you see you don't see all the slug lines on TV, because most fans, they have what they know. They measure things based on things they understand. And so, like, I don't understand WAR. I've never had anyone explain to me WAR. It's like a derivative. It's like a financial derivative. No one ever explained that to me to my satisfaction, so I just ignored it. Same with WAR. I know it works for them, supposedly, but they can't explain it to me, so I ignore it. Statistics are valuable. If you understand them and you're a front office guy and you're really trying to get that extra edge, fine. But if you're just a fan, if you're a statistical person and a baseball sabermetrics person, leave the other fans alone. Let them enjoy batting average. Let them enjoy wins. If that's how they're going to measure it, let them do it. That's how they
Well, I
understand.
totally agree with you on that.
That's how they understand the game.
The line is where they start actively criticizing, the front office or management because, if the front office doesn't sign a free agent, even though he won 22 games last year, well, if you know that his underlying stats say that he was probably not nearly as good as, he got 8 runs of offensive support every game. That's why he won 22 games. Well, at that point, the people who understand the offense, the stats better, know better. And so, yeah, I agree with you that if somebody's just minding their own business and enjoying the game how they do, that's great. But if they get into a point where they're criticizing somebody else,
exactly,
they clearly don't know what they're talking about.
It boils down to who throws out that first critique. If you're just enjoying the game and some sabermetrics guy comes along and says you're talking about wins, you're an idiot. Well, you know what? You're the one criticizing is the fool. He's the person who's talking about wins is enjoying the game the way they can. If you're not smart enough to know that you don't know all the statistics and everything about the game, but you're still going to mouth off about what the front office, why'd they sign this guy? He had 14 losses last year, and then like you say, well, the guy had no run support and blah blah blah. It really does boil down who's being the aggressor with the criticism that's wrong there. My contention is, if people are enjoying the game because they want to measure, wins, or they want to measure batting average, or innocuous things like that, fine, let them. I mean, there's a guy here who, let me just show you real quick. There's a guy right here, the physics of baseball. Alan Nathan is his name. It's from the University of Illinois, and he talks about you got sabermetrics and stuff, but he talks about how the weather affects baseball, and you can go look him up online. But he talks about how barometric pressure and things like that will affect the break on a ball. And if you're like, for instance, Alex Wood was in Colorado. I'd never start Alex Wood in Colorado based on what this guy says, because you know what? There's no air pressure to Alex Wood is a breaking ball pitcher. Without the air pressure, his ball doesn't break. He gets hit. Don't pitch him in Colorado. That's what this guy's contention is. If you
Alan Nathan is like one of my favorite people. He's probably the geekiest hero I have.
Oh, that's cool. I had no idea when I ran across this article. That's very cool. So, but he says, roughly speaking, a baseball, and this is what I've always wondered, and what I wanted to share with the Dodger fans is, roughly speaking, and this, like I say, I don't get into the weeds with statistics necessarily, because I was in the financial world when it collapsed, and I know what statistics can do and say if you're not careful with them. But anyway, roughly speaking, a baseball loses about 10% of its speed during the flight between pitcher and catcher. Who knew? So that the baseball that leaves the pitcher's hand at 95 miles an hour will hit the plate at about 86 miles an hour. And I always believed my whole life with just watching the game, some guys have late velocity. Like that ball is still traveling 95 when it hits and this is kind of how I feel about Pedro Baez. I think he has late velocity. I think, the ball still hits that glove, motoring. And some guys, it comes out of the glove hot and it just tapers off. But the weather has a lot to do with this. And here's another example. He says, if we take 18 inches as a typical break at Fenway Park, we're talking, and he talks about this thing called Magnus force, which is just like barometric pressure and wind and pressure against the ball. I don't want to get into that too much. An identically thrown pitch will break 82% as much, or about 14 to 15 inches at Coors Field. So the ball breaks 18 inches in Fenway. It breaks 14 inches in Coors Field. Maybe I'm not going to throw my breaking ball pitchers, if I can work my lineup a little bit, quite as much there. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, Jeff, as far as, enjoying the game with statistics and getting down to the weeds. And I think it just boils down to being courteous to other Dodger fans. If someone's going to come out and act like a know-it-all, let them be a know-it-all. Let them do their thing. that's how they're enjoying the game, right? If they're coming...
And I think a lot of it comes down to your relationship with the person. Because if we're just talking about Twitter, I am...
Go ahead. That's Ron. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just got to beep. If you're just talking about Twitter, yeah, you don't know those people well enough. It's not your business. But I bought my brother Brian Kenny's book for Christmas last year.
Hold on a second.
I love my brother.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron, you're
You
back.
got it.
You're back.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff. You brought your brother a book for Christmas.
So yeah, I bought my brother Brian And so I think it's a fine balance where you don't just have to let everybody enjoy it the way they currently do, because then nobody learns. And like you said you don't like to get into weeds, but then you read this article, and that's a super nerdy article, but you really enjoyed it, and it enhanced your enjoyment of the game.
Right. And then I tried to. On
Twitter and said, "Tom, you need to read this article about weather." You would have said, "Shut up."
Yeah. No. And then I tried to take that article and make it palatable, and so that other people could understand it and maybe appreciate it. But I would never say you don't know baseball because you didn't read this article, or you don't know baseball because you don't know how WAR's calculated, or you don't know baseball because BABIP is not something you understand. Bullshit. Oh, damn it! I cussed. I don't like to cuss. But anyway, I know a lot of people
somebody else has the argument. I had somebody tell me that Matt Kemp deserves the MVP because he's been hitting well and he hasn't made many errors in left field. And I had to say, well, errors don't mean anything, And at that point, it's like, well, you started it,
Well, but you can let it go. You can let it go and let people appreciate. And like you say, it depends on where you're at. You and I now have developed this relationship where you and I can go back and forth a little bit, and we're not offending each other or trying to make the other one feel stupid. We both want each other to love this game. We both want each other to understand and appreciate this game more and more. And so, since we're coming from the same place, we have this understanding. I guess it's, what it is? It's intolerance for me. I just
have to be strategic about what I argue with you about, because I get to be right next time, so I need to make it count.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm sorry. You get to be right next time? Where did that come from?
You got to be right this time, so I get to be right next time.
Oh, no, it doesn't work that way. All right, man. Listen, I've really enjoyed the...
I'm the good guy, Tom.
Yo, you shut up. You shut up, mister. I'm not going to have it. Not on my show. He's talking about a movie I did once where I had a line. I was an actor years ago, and I had a line, and I hate this line, and he happened to see it, and he keeps pushing the button. But anyway, we'll talk about that offline, buddy. I really do appreciate talking to you, and I'll get this phone thing figured out, or I want you to stay connected to my show. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to talk with Dodger fans.
Okay, buddy. We're going to clear up the line. Take care, bud.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Hey, Ron, you there?
I got some breaking news here. It was breaking about 20 minutes ago. It's not breaking so much now because I didn't want to interrupt. But Jesse Winkler hit a walk-off home run for the Rockies in the 13th inning, so the Rockies beat the Reds. Now, what's the big deal with that?
Yeah.
Well, the big deal with that is the Giants are 31-31, as are the Dodgers. Giants play, they're off today, so we don't have to deal with that. But with regards to the Rockies, the Dodgers are now, let's see, they're actually one game behind the Rockies, one full game, and 1.5 games behind the Diamondbacks for first place.
Oh,
so it's a big deal.
Who knew? Who knew that back when we were like 2-7 in series, that when I said we'd be in first place by June 15th, that I might be off. That might have been too long. And here we are.
Yeah, I go back. I've referenced it before on the show here, but and certainly with you off the air. But Kevin Kennedy and I had a conversation about a week and a half ago. Actually, it was about 3 days prior to this current road trip, and he said that if the Dodgers do well in Colorado, and if Pittsburgh continues to play the way Pittsburgh has been playing, that we could possibly be in first place when this road trip is over. Now, granted, the road trip's over. The Dodgers are not in first place, but 1.5 back is a heck of a lot better than 8 or 9 back, which was only 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yep. And now we're 7-6 in series play. Fantastic. Hey, I got this new thing I'm starting where I'm saying that's a Nabisco bullpen, and I'm gonna start saying that when we face bullpens that give up cookies, because That's what we've been facing. We've been facing a lot of teams, but we're hitting the cookies, and that's very important. You got to hit the cookies because you got to hit the cookies when they come your way. Hit that cookie. Here comes a cookie. Here comes a cookie. And the Dodgers have been hitting it, all of them. And so finally. Anyway, we're looking at coming up over an hour here. Is there anything you want to add, Ron? How you doing?
The only thing you know how I am. I almost to ad nauseum. I love our minor league system, and Dean Kremer's pitching tonight out at for the Quakes out in Lancaster.
Can you say his name again? Can you say his name again?
What's that?
Can you say his name again?
Dean Kremer.
Dean Kremer.
Some pronounce it Kramer, but I call it Kremer because that's what it looks like to me.
Okay.
He's 4-2 with a 3.58 ERA. On this season. This is a kid that I don't think I mentioned it with Dustin May the other day that if you want to see Dustin May pitch in Southern California, you better get out to Rancho because he's not going to be here much longer. I believe the same holds true for Dean Kremer, and that's going to be that's a big deal. These kids are going to be gone, and it's good news because they're on their way. It's bad news because we don't get to see him. Now, this will be the last time or two that I actually get to lay eyes on him and see his stuff and see what he to be the so-called sort of knowledgeable guy on this. Also, tomorrow night, the Quakes return home to Rancho versus the first place Inland Empire 66ers. Albeit only by not even a game. I think it's one game. But tomorrow night, out at the Epicenter, which I guess you're supposed to call it Lone Mark Field, but it's always the Epicenter. This JT, it's Justin Turner bobblehead night. And this out at the Rancho tomorrow night. So
Rancho Cucamonga, the Epicenter, JT bobblehead night.
Justin Turner bobblehead night. Tomorrow night on Friday against Inland Empire, and again, first place in the first half is up for grabs. There's only let's see, there's 11. There's county tonight's game. There's 10 games left in the first half of the Cal League, and if you win your half, in the first half, second half, you go to the championship or you go to the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way it is in the northern section and southern section. It's respectively. So you want to win that first half to have that one in the bank. So and there's only a game separating these teams now. And Jethawks are in it too. It's a really tight race. So this is why I get really excited. The slogan they used a while back, a year or two ago, was "Minor League, Major Fun," and that's the way I look at it. Just see these kids coming up.
Minor league's a blast. I love going. I love checking out the minor leagues. I mean, in my old hometown, we had a minor league team. Okay, real quick, I'll go ahead and do this one. I did the old connect. I have stopped doing the connect the teammates for a little while. Now I'm connecting celebrities and kind of baseball personalities. Tommy Lasorda and Paul Newman. Now, aren't those two names that go together? Aren't they? When you think of one, don't you automatically think of the other? Tommy?
Pretty much no.
Oh, I guess not. Okay, fair enough. Well, Tommy Lasorda and Paul Newman can be connected in the entertainment world because someone apparently. Let me see, where are we at? Tommy Lasorda and Paul Newman. I got to do this. No, that's Charlie Steiner and Vince Scully. We're going to go with Tommy Lasorda and Paul Newman. So Tommy Lasorda and Paul Newman are connected by a guy named George Carlin. And George Carlin was in a movie with Paul Newman, and he was, I believe it's a movie with Tommy Lasorda. Tommy Lasorda in 1979 and George Carlin appeared together in a thing called Americathon. Have you ever heard of Americathon, Ron?
No.
Okay. I haven't either. I don't know if it's a movie or if it's a TV show or what. But Tommy Lasorda and George Carlin appeared in 79 in Americathon. And then Carlin and Newman in Cars in 2006. And thus I've connected Tommy Lasorda and Paul Newman. And who thought that could be done? Nobody.
Well, Okay.
All right. Well, listen, unless you got something to add, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Just the only thing I want to add is that the starting rotation, which you never know anymore.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night is Walker Bueller with our old friend Big Mac.
Oh,
McCarthy. Yeah. And then on Saturday is Alex Wood and Annabelle Sanchez.
Mm-hmm. And
then on Sunday is our is 2018 Cy Young Award winner. You heard it here first. Ross Stripling.
Oh, yes.
And some guy named TBA.
Well, it's good to have it. What do you mean? It's a 3-game. Oh, like for Atlanta, TBA. It's good that we finally have a 3-game series where we know who the 3 starters are going to be. How long's it been? It's always been like one we didn't know, and DFA, and maybe a minor league guy. It's been like putting together a puzzle. So, all right. Well, that's my buddy Ron Cervenka. He comes on the show. He does Think Blue LA. He writes about the Dodgers. He knows the farm system, probably like most Dodger fans don't. He really does know the Dodger farm system, and he also knows the Dodgers. He gets the opportunity to go and be in their what do you call it? Press box. Be the press box, Tom.
Press box and clubhouse.
And he gets to hobnob and rub elbows, but he always comes back with the interesting take. So I really appreciate it again, Ron.
Well, I always enjoy calling into the show, and I'm glad that you have enough confidence in me to have me fill in for a guy, some enormous shoes, a guy named Hollywood. That's pretty. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, well, you do just fine. And Hollywood's going to be back with me on Sunday after the Atlanta series, and I hope to hear from you. Are you going to be in the press box again?
I am.
All
so
right.
If I can shoot you a call. It depends on how things go.
All right.
Because immediately after the game, we blast down to the interview room for Doc's post game, and then we go into the clubhouse to interview the players. And by the time I get back upstairs and have the phone available, you're probably halfway through your show. So
well,
that's what. At least it's worked thus far, so let's keep it going.
Yeah, give it your best shot. I'll be. You know where I'll be. So all right, Dodger fans, we're now winning series. Everything's better in the land of blue, and Atlanta's coming up. We'll see. I think Atlanta's going to be another good test. We are going to be at home. We're going to have some pitchers that we know, are actually starters going for us, and we'll see you next Sunday. And thank you so much for being a part of Talkin Blue Live. And as I always do at the end of every show, I don't know why, it's just something I do. I say, "Go Dodgers, woof."